Imagine discovering an entire world at the edge of the solar system, not because your calculations were perfect, but because they were wrong. Imagine searching for something that does not truly exist, and instead finding something completely unexpected. That is exactly how Pluto was discovered. Its discovery was not the result of flawless science, but the outcome of obsession, imperfect data, and extraordinary patience. At the beginning of the 20th century, astronomers believed that the outer planets were behaving strangely and that their orbits showed small irregularities that could not be fully explained by the known gravitational forces at the time. Uranus and Neptune did not appear to follow their predicted paths with complete accuracy, and even though the differences were tiny, they were enough to spark serious scientific curiosity. Many experts believed that an unseen massive planet beyond Neptune was pulling on them with its gravity and disturbing their motion through space. An American astronomer named Percival Lowell became completely convinced that this hidden planet existed, and he dedicated years of his life to proving it. He called this mysterious object Planet X, and he invested his personal fortune into building a research facility in Arizona, which is known today as Lowell Observatory. From this observatory, he began making detailed mathematical predictions about where Planet X should be located in the sky, and he firmly believed that careful calculations would eventually reveal its position. However, the foundation of his search was flawed because the small orbital irregularities he was trying to explain were actually caused by errors in measurement rather than the gravitational pull of a massive hidden planet. The observational tools available at the time were not advanced enough to produce perfectly accurate data, and this led to slight miscalculations in planetary positions. Lowell did not realize this, and he continued his search for years, scanning large sections of the night sky without success. When he died in 1916, Planet X had not been found, and many believed the idea would slowly fade away. The search might have ended permanently if the observatory had not decided to continue Lowell work years later. In 1929, they hired a young man named Clyde Tombaugh, who came from a farming background in Kansas and had no formal university degree in astronomy. Despite this, he had built his own telescopes at home and created extremely detailed drawings of planets which impressed the observatory enough to offer him a position. His assignment was straightforward, but extremely demanding, because he was asked to photograph regions of the sky and carefully compare images taken on different nights in order to detect any object that moved slightly against the background of fixed stars. To accomplish this task, Tombaugh used a device called a blink comparator, which allowed him to switch rapidly between two photographic plates of the same star field. When the images alternated quickly, most stars appeared stationary, but any object that shifted position would seem to jump back and forth. This method required immense concentration because each plate contained thousands of tiny points of light, and a moving object could easily be overlooked if the observer lost focus even briefly. For months, Tombaugh examined countless images, spending long hours in careful observation without any significant discovery. Then on February 18, 1930, while comparing two plates taken several days apart, he noticed a faint object that had shifted position slightly. It was dim and unimpressive at first glance, but its movement was undeniable. After repeated checks to rule out defects or errors, the observatory confirmed that the object was indeed a new body orbiting beyond Neptune. The discovery was officially announced in March 1930, and it quickly captured global attention. The newly found world was named Pluto, after the Roman god of the underworld, and the name was suggested by a young girl in England. The initials also happened to match Percival Lowell, which many saw as a fitting tribute to the man whose determination had initiated the search decades earlier. Yet as scientists continued to study Pluto, it became clear that it was far too small to account for the gravitational disturbances that Lowell had predicted. Pluto mass was tiny compared to what Planet X was supposed to be, and it could not possibly exert the strong gravitational influence required to disturb Uranus and Neptune. Eventually, improved measurements of planetary motion showed that the earlier irregularities were the result of inaccurate data, rather than the presence of a massive hidden planet. In other words, Pluto was discovered because astronomers were searching in a region of the sky coincidentally contained it, even though their original reasoning was incorrect. Lowell's flawed calculations pointed observers toward the right general area by chance, and Tombaugh's patient work allowed him to detect the faint moving dot that represented a distant world. If Pluto had been slightly dimmer or positioned slightly differently, it might have remained undiscovered for many more years. Decades later, in 2006, the International Astronomical Union redefined the criteria for what qualifies as a planet, and Pluto was reclassified as a dwarf planet because it had not cleared its orbit of other objects. This decision sparked emotional reactions around the world, but it did not diminish the remarkable story of how Pluto first entered human awareness. The discovery of Pluto demonstrates that science does not always progress in a straight line, guided only by perfect logic and precise data. Sometimes it advances because someone asks the wrong question but refuses to stop searching. Sometimes mistakes create opportunities for unexpected breakthroughs. If Percival Lowell calculations had had been accurate, the search for Planet X might never have continued with such determination. If Clyde Tombaugh had lacked patience or attention to detail, the faint moving speck could have been missed entirely. Pluto's existence was real, but the reason it was sought was mistaken. That combination of error and persistence led to one of the most fascinating discoveries in modern astronomy, and it reminds us that even flawed ideas can open the door to extraordinary revelations.